It's the end of week 3 in our journey through the New Testament in 2024. Done and dusted are 15 chapters. There's only one more chapter of Mark's Gospel left to go. We'll do that after the weekend, before we then embark on probably about a 6-week journey through the Acts of the Apostles, the story of the early church, as they took on the mission from Jesus' death and resurrection and his rising to be with the Father in heaven, as they spread the word across the world as they knew it. Do you know, there's been some challenging times in these last 5 chapters that we've read this week. I always say that there are 3 different ways in which the scriptures are hard to read. First of all, there are those things which affect you deeply and personally and move you. Things like chapters 14 and 15 of Mark's Gospel that we've just read yesterday and today, where Jesus is arrested in Gethsemane, where he's put on a mock trial, where he's walked up the hill to Calvary, where the nails are hammered through his hands and his feet and he's crucified. But then, of course, the victory is yet to come when we read in the final chapter of his resurrection next week. I suppose I should have given you a spoiler alert there. As difficult as that is to read, there are also portions where Jesus is quite demanding of those who call themselves disciples. Other people have referred to it as the cost of commitment to following Christ. But then there's another aspect which is difficult to reading the scriptures, and that's when something it's just hard to understand. We read it and we read it and we read it again, and we don't quite grasp it. One of those examples in my reading this week was found in chapter 11, where Jesus curses a fig tree. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry, and seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. And then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard him say it. Later on, we find that the fig tree has withered. Probably not looking an awful lot different to my plum tree here in my garden at the Manse in Glasgow. Of course, it's out of season. It's freezing cold. It's the middle of winter just now. You wouldn't expect leaves, never mind fruit, on this plum tree. Some of the commentators who've said something about that passage I've just read to you seem to think that Jesus was being childish, that he was being over-demanding of the fig tree which he cursed and eventually which died. They fail to see that it's really an image. Jesus is styling himself like the prophets of old, where they didn't just speak a message, but they often acted out the message from God. The fig tree in the Hebrew scriptures is often an image of Israel, God's ancient people. And what Jesus, I think, was saying in word and action with the fig tree was that on the surface it looked great. Unlike this plum tree, it was full of leaves, it was promising, and yet when he went up to it, there was no fruit. It didn't do what it was designed to do. It didn't offer any figs. Now, Jesus knew what it was to be hungry. He'd gone 40 days in the wilderness without food. He could have lasted 5 minutes without a fig. I think his cursing of the fig tree was a call to Israel, and also now to us in every generation, not just to look good on the outside, but also to bear fruit for God's kingdom. That's why we're here. It's a hard saying. It's hard to understand. It's demanding. But as we follow in the way of Jesus, we also have to pick up our cross to serve him daily. Pray the Lord will bless you as you continue to read his word. That final and wonderful chapter of Mark's Gospel, chapter 16, on Monday of next week. And then on from there, as we see God do amazing things in sharing the good news throughout the world via his church, the body of Christ.